What's up, YouTube? Alright, so again back at it with the switch panel and the fuse block install. So last time you seen I was working on these switches, ended up plastic welding them because I was finding no way to actually get them to stay in properly. So we got the hazards on this side, and we got the soon to be fog light LED cubes, which you guys will see more of that later, and the regular running lights with the pop-up headlights and stuff. So I don't know what this knob is for. Can't explain to you what that knob is for, but let's go ahead and throw them in the car and finish up this install. Alright, so we got the switch panel installed. I just placed the gauge pods in here just to see what it'll look like if I like the angle. But we're gonna be wiring that next. So yeah, it's looking more and more like a car. Also put the Velcro pads on the foot pads, I guess. These diamond plated foot pads to match the trunk delete. So and I didn't have to use the whole Velcro. I actually just used the prickly side of the Velcro because it would stick to this nice carpet looking material. So since this side is finished, might as well be put in this side. And just like that side is done too. Cool. Alright, so now we're going to be focusing on wiring this. I already hooked up the little switch, so that's pretty cool. This is to control the fan speed. I mostly be for heat because I removed the AC and the defroster off the windshield, so that's cool. I got all the powers labeled for this, even for the chargers. And this gauge is not set up yet, so I'm not worried about that. So I need to run all the powers. You see a little switch on the floor there. Just open this. See that? And yeah. Alright, so let's try and sort out some of these wires on the floor. And a lot of these were labeled from when I pulled them out a long time ago. Like this, it had a Pro Sport gauge in it already, so that's pretty cool. Pro Sport over there, so that hopefully everything should match up properly. And somewhat labeled gauges. In this car, I think I said it before, but in this car, brown is negative, so you gotta keep that in mind. Like a brown wire, that's ground. And majority of the stuff on this side is for the radio. So you can see the radio antenna and left wire and power and constant power. So we're going to be wiring this up today. One thing I don't know what this is. I don't know what these set of wires is for. And it kind of runs back all the way into the harness, so I guess I'll figure that out later on. But I guess to simplify some of these wires, I'm going to be wiring up my radio. You guys will see what kind of radio I got soon, but yeah, just do the simple splice and just wire it up from now. Alright, took a little bit longer than I expected because the previous wiring job done by the previous owner really sucked. But it looked nice and professional now. Hopefully the wires are good and not touching each other. This orange one I'm going to wire up to the fog lights. When I turn on the lights, it illuminates. That's exactly what it is. Also, I had found time and put on the e-brake now. So now the car can hold itself under its own weight. Still holding on by the shock right now, but forget about that. Right. So now we're going to be putting on a prong to this and start adding power to this car. So by doing that, we're going to make a fuse block or fuse / relay panel right up in this wall right here. So when you're here, you know, you can't really accidentally kick it. Honestly, this like little guard right here is good. But I guess if somebody ends up kicking it, I guess I will put like acrylic glass and block it. But alright, so I'm going to be making a panel that goes right up in there. Right, so to make this fuse panel, we're going to need a couple of things. First off, the little panel plate to mount everything to. I already measured this and pre-drilled holders into it already. This, we're gonna use this. This is our fuse block. This we can put individual fuses in and have power going out all over to wherever we need it with individual fuses. It also lights up if anything goes wrong, so that's pretty cool. I'm also gonna need to bring the power from the fuse block to these terminal rings, terminal strip kind of thing, right? So now power will go through here and go out to the switches and go out to whatever it's powering. Super simple. We also got a 300 amp circuit breaker here, so it should be enough for the battery, or more than enough for the battery. And we're gonna need a couple relays. So right now we have about 4. Not really powering much in the car as of now, but this can fit up to 9, and this has up to 10 slots on it. So we should be able to, do a lot with this panel in the future. All right, so let's start putting it together. Right, so the way a relay works is basically it gathers the power straight from the battery and sends it to whatever loads it needs. Sometimes you get a switch and it can't really handle the amperage of what you need to power, like fans or whatever. So we use a relay that keeps all the power in, sends the power from the battery, sends the power out to the accessory, whatever you want to power. And then it only uses a little bit of current. It just needs like a little signal, which is this white wire here. This gets sent off to the switch. When the switch gets current, it powers on whatever accessory you have connected to this relay. Also, the longer the wire, voltage drop and all that stuff, but this is like the main reason why we use relays. So we got power in on blue. I just told you white goes to the switch. Yellow is off to the accessory, or the load, whatever you want to call it, and black is obviously ground. Right, so we're gonna wire this up, and then I'm going to explain to you how this works. Alright, so now we got this whole panel wired up. It's looking really nice, looking nice and neat somewhat. So, like I said, the power would go in through the fuse block right here, and you'll go through this 300 amp breaker before it hits that. It'll go from the battery to 300 amp to this. It'll go from the battery to the 300 amp breaker to this little port right here. You give all the fuses power. And from there, the blue is power into the relay. And the power out is yellow, which goes to this block right here. Also, it needs a signal, so the white wire is the signal, comes back to the block, comes back to here. It helps if you have a label maker. Switches are even, so the white wires are on all the even numbers, because you see when it goes to 1 through 8, so all the even numbers are switches. So it's easier to see versus like trying to figure this out under the car. It's easy to see now, but try and picture yourself under the car. So I basically wired it up so this relay is this 2, and then 2, 4, and 6, and 8. So they go by 2s, and they have 4 relays here, so easy. And of course you gotta ground them all at the top. This major port right here will go to a piece of metal in the car. A nice perfect ground in the car. So from here off we can tee off. So this one will be the yellow one, the odd one. This will go to the load. So FF stands for floor and fog lights, or fog lights and floor lights. I just wasn't enough space, so when I flip on the fog lights, I want the floor lights to come on with it. Just simplify the system, honestly. If it's dark out, floor lights would be cool to install in your car. You don't need it on all the time. So yeah, that's done. So the yellow would run, which is the odd, would run straight to the fog lights and power the floor lights as well. And the even one will go to the switch, and the center dash. You guys saw that. Easy. That's basically how that works. Same thing with the horn and the rigid cubes. The rigid cube has two. See, this is the brand I have, fog light, and I'm gonna put these in the pop-up headlights. So what it is, it's like a two kind of color light, which both the lights colors are not on at the same time. So you need two separate relays for it. So that's the reason why I got two for that. Gotta go get some fuses. Gotta find out the amperage rating for the fog lights, and then give it a little bit more for the floor lights. For the horn, we got hella horns over here, and we gotta figure out the fuses for the rigid cubes. Number 10 slot. This one is just going to wire. This one's going to power all of the switches. I have, you've seen the green. I have the green switches. They are 20 amp fuses. So I'm just gonna, they're the 20 amp switches. So I'm just gonna put a 20 amp in there, because I'm pretty sure it's not gonna, it's not gonna over exceed that anyway. It also powers my phone chargers and other stuff. So a 20 amp should be perfect in this. Right, so getting back in the car here. Getting here with this bar is not the easiest, but safety first, right? Right, so I'm gonna wire up all these switches and lower half first. That should be simple. Most of these are labeled already with the red tape. Power, things that are not labeled with ground. Finish up the wiring for the radio, super simple. Alright, so we got this over here. This wire is gonna have to get extended. We also have a ground port right here. Perfect. 2 bolts here. Might just mount up this piece up here. That'd be perfect. I don't think I really have a glove box. I don't know. I'll figure something out about the glove box, but I don't really see much room in here. But alright, so we're gonna mount this here. We have another ground port here. It's perfect. So screw this up here. And up in here is where the battery comes from. Put like a little hole port. You guys can't really see up there, but let's see. Alright, so let's get to wiring. We also have all of the rest of the wire from my previous car. We got thicker, thin wires. When I say thick, I probably mean like between 14 gauge to, 10 gauge. So should have enough to wire everything up. Alright, so we got the powers and the grounds connected, and the fuse box panel installed. So let me show you guys that. Sheesh, it's kind of hard to get down here. So you can see I only put it in with one self tap. Also, I put the padding behind it so the vibrations wouldn't, make a sound and mess up the electronics. So now it's time to start powering every single relay I have here. Let me show you guys how I put the 300 amp fuse breaker. It's like an 8 gauge wire going up into the engine bay, up in there. And then it's like a 10 gauge wire running power straight to the whole board. And then the 10 gauge wire right here running to the ground. So super simple setup. You just gotta put in the fuses and run the lines now. So the switches, I ended up powering from the top. Might as well, just because it's not just the switches, it's the chargers and other stuff too. So super simple. So now we're gonna work our way down this way. Plus I gotta ground the switches with this one, and the gauges gotta power, and the rigid rigging switch right here. So just work work our way over there and start powering and grounding stuff over there. I might end up drilling another self-tap into the chassis over there to create a ground, so I'm not running everything back over here, just, you know, for the simplicity of everything. Right, so back on this, see it, this thing is fully wired up, and soon I have more relays on the other side for the other terminal. But honestly, this was actually pretty easy, so that's pretty cool. All right, so now back to this. As you can see, I finished up the radio wiring. Found out what this wiring was, went through my videos and figured it out. It's for like the lights and stuff. Probably like park lights or whatever. That's all sorted out. You can see I cleaned up this area. Now, like I said back then, this car already had a Pro Sport oil pressure gauge, but it wasn't the Evo ones. But thankfully, for Pro Sport being so simple, the same one that goes, the same connector that goes into the back of the regular gauge fits into the Evo gauge as well. So that's really cool on their part. So as you see, I wired up all the wires that was existing to this car onto the new harness and added a couple more, like this one, coolant. I just teed off all the wires. These are all set, and it's such a small gauge wire, I don't think these things pull up any much current anyway. So this should be super simple to wire all up. All pressure, I need this thing to come over a little bit more, but I just pop the zip tie and pull it more. All right, so now we're back to the Pro Sport gauges. If I explained this to you already, these are the Evo Pro Sport gauges. This one is speed, and this one is speedometer. This one's a tachometer, fuel level, coolant, and oil pressure. Here we're going to be putting in an AEM gauge. This one's either going to be air fuel ratio or boost, but that's later on down the line. So now that we got all the powers and stuff sorted out for the gauges, we gotta now sort out, like we're already going through the settings and stuff. Like for the tachometer, you gotta select what how many cylinders your engine has, and then for the fuel level, we have to figure out how many ohms does our stock fuel filter, our stock fuel sender uses. You guys, it's too blurry, you guys can't see. But I'm gonna have to look up all this, and on top of that, I have to, these two white wires here, this is the tack, so I gotta find out which one was the tack wire and pull it out and wire it to this. And then the same thing with the fuel level, which shouldn't be hard. I got the gauges in the trunk, so I'm gonna go pull them out and see which plugs into what. And after that, I'll start doing a little multimeter action and try and find out which is which. So right, so for the fuel sending unit, the only wire that goes from the back to the front is this orange and black wire, so that was pretty easy to follow. And for the ohm setting, our sending unit uses what, 76 empty and about 3.2 full, and the closest one to that is a 65 GM on the setting, which is setting number 1 and that little thing. Make sure you guys have like a really tiny screwdriver if you're gonna use it for these Pro Sport gauges, because anything else would definitely not work inside this little thing. And they don't supply a tool that would help you, because that would really help. But yeah, so just a little screwdriver. So we're going to be taking this signal wire and putting it to this wire, and then for the speedometer, we have a GPS. We're going to mount that to like the top part of the dash or anywhere else, so it gets a good signal. And for the tack, it's this plug. I have to go inside and look on the forums to see which one gives a good reading for the tack, and then I'll put this sensor wire to it. So back with that. Alright, so for the tachometer now, I'm looking in the forums and they say it's a black and green wire. And I'm looking through my whole entire harness and I don't really see a black and green wire. Only black and green wire I see is this to the turnstock. You know? Or is this the windshield wipers? Either or. The only other green wires I see here, this is completely not even for the tachometer. This is something different. I don't know why that wire is cut, but I won't be plugging any of these in. But yeah, so this is the one that goes to the tachometer. You can see this is a 8-pin, but this is a 6-pin. The 2 more pins are for the turbo model. At least I think so. That's what they were saying on the forums. And they are right about 3 wires, I guess. But I'm guessing the black and green wire is just my all green wire. Because they were right about the green and yellow and the green and red. But I don't know. I'm gonna try the fully green one first. It's gonna be like a trial and error kind of thing. But we'll see. We'll see. And of course we got the sensor wire that's sorted out already. Alright, so we're gonna be connecting this up and wiring up the rest. Shouldn't be pretty hard. Shouldn't be too hard. Alright, YouTube. I got everything on and powered up, and actually everything's really interesting. The way it turned out was this switch was actually getting power and this switch was getting power, and somehow they got teed off on each other. Those were the 3 wires that was hanging down here when I did that, and then accidentally created a continuous loop. How I knew it was wrong, because this was actually green and it's off. That means it's getting power from the load and power from the positive. So I disabled that, and by creating this continuous loop, all of the lights on the outside are powered by this switch right here. So you see the green lights on the cage just by flipping that switch. You can see. So after that, if I go on to look outside, all of these lights on the outside are on, which is really interesting. So which is fine with me. That one switch can power my fog lights and power the pop-up headlights. You can see that the HIDs are on right now, but these will be disconnected for the LED cubes that I will be wiring up later on. So it's actually pretty interesting. Really, really interesting. Even the dome light is on. Maybe I can switch that off. I'll switch that off. Okay. All right. I don't even know which one is the door, but we'll see. So, in the next video, we will be powering up these gauges. Everything's plugged in and stuff, but it only goes on with the ignition because I teed it off from the oil pressure gauge that was in the car from a long time ago. So I just teed everything off from there. So only way for these switches to turn on would be with the key and the ignition. So which is over here. So in the next video, we will be installing the whole center stack with the steering wheel and stuff. And we have a little surprise of what kind of steering wheel we're going to use. I guess you guys didn't really, ain't much really to guess, but going to have that going on. So don't forget to comment, rate, and subscribe. Don't forget, never stop modifying.